Welcome to the Melbourne Property Podcast, hosted by Sky and Lindsay Hammer from Convergence Buyers Agents, your local property experts.
This podcast is your go-to source for insights, trends and tips on navigating the ever-changing Melbourne property market.
Whether you're buying an investment property or your dream home, stay tuned for the next 30 minutes as we give you exclusive insights that will shape your next property purchase. Let's dive in. Hi, I'm Sky and welcome to another episode of the Melbourne Property Podcast. Today we've got a really, practical episode. So we're out of the data, we're kind of pulling back a little bit, and a really practical episode for homeowners, investors, anyone looking to buy property, not just in Melbourne, but I think it's fair to safe to say anywhere in the country. So I'm looking forward to unpacking this in a little bit with our special guest. But for now, as always, I'm joined in the studio by my co-host Lindsay. Lindsay, how are you today?
Yeah, I'm really good. I'm looking forward to this episode. It's someone that we work with quite closely. You know, every couple of days we're on the phone chatting. Looking forward to it.
All right. And as always, before we get started, this episode of the Melbourne Property Podcast is brought to you by Scale Lending. Whether you're a seasoned investor looking to scale your portfolio or a growing family buying your next home, the team at Scale Lending takes the time to understand your strategy and structure your finances for long-term success. With access to over 40 lenders and a deep focus on property investment, they're not just ticking boxes, they're also unlocking doors. So if you're ready to take that next step, visit scalelending.com.au, submit an inquiry, and one of the team will reach out to you to have that conversation.
Okay, well, I think we should introduce our guest for today's episode. We are joined in the studio today by someone who has literally saved some of our clients tens of thousands of dollars. We have Phil from BuyWise. Phil, I'm not going to try and pronounce your last name. How are you today?
I'm very well. Thanks for having me.
So how would we pronounce your last name? Phil?
Guildea.
Oh.
That's the one. Yes.
And what is the heritage of your name?
It's Irish. Yep.
Very good.
Way back.
I'm sure the listeners will pick up on the Irish accent.
Soon enough.
Very good. Phil, I don't know if Lindsay's mentioned, but we do have a little icebreaker here.
Okay.
It's just as simple as, I guess, what are you loving about Melbourne right now? I'll get Lindsay to answer that first, give you some time to think about it. But Lindsay, what are you loving about Melbourne right now?
Well, I often talk about the variety of different activities and things you can do in Melbourne, and that's one of the reasons why I love this city so much. I'm a bit of a food and wine, I won't say connoisseur, but it's something I enjoy. And this weekend, I'm actually going to a wine tasting with one of my favourite winemakers. So his name is Will Berliner, and he is the winemaker for Cloudburst. It's a Western Australian cab sav, and he's coming to Melbourne to do a special tasting at Gimlet. With any of you that understand and know food in Melbourne, Gimlet is an amazing restaurant. So I'm really looking forward to that opportunity. The only downside is that spots were really limited, and it seems like I got the second wave of spots, so we're eating dinner at 4 p.m.
Oh, right. I didn't know that's how
Yes.
it was.
Yes. So that's what I'm loving about Melbourne this week. What about you, Sky?
For me, I'm going to keep it nice and simple this week. It's the coffee. I've had a couple of coffees today. Good old Melbourne coffee saving me. The NFL season's actually started up again, so kind of rolled over this morning until the NFL season kicked off nice and early. So I was up very early this morning, so these coffees are getting me through today.
Now, is it true, Sky, that you have 2 fantasy NFL teams?
I do. You say that like it's a childish endeavour, but it's actually a lot more involved than that. But yes, it is. For those that don't know, NFL fantasy, kind of like I call it like Dream Team or Supercoach for the AFL equivalent, is a huge industry in the US. There's a lot of money behind it, a lot of podcasts, a lot of people do it full time. And I did get hooked on that when I was living over in the US for a few years. So yes, definitely involved in my NFL fantasy, that's for sure.
Okay, and what about you, Phil? What are you loving about Melbourne right
It's
now?
not to love, in fairness.
Yeah.
It is spring, so the weather, I'm enjoying the weather.
Yep,
Yeah.
it is good.
It has changed just very
Yeah,
quickly.
I feel like it was to the weekend. The weekend just kind of picked up again, and
Just
now everyone's and I'm sure it's going to go horrible again by the end of the week.
doubt.
But it is very nice at the moment.
Okay, well, we might kick on with today's episode. It's really just going to be sort of a question and answer style, talking about you, Phil, and your industry and what it looks like working as a building and pest inspector, some of the tips and tricks you might have for investors and home buyers out there. So might just get started with a little bit about your background, how you got into the industry and owning BuyWise.
My background is I started off as an apprentice carpenter, my dad's a builder, so it's a family business. I sort of worked with him for years. Then I branched out on my own, set up my own construction company and going very good actually. And then a little thing called the GFC hit Ireland and things got a little bit unenjoyable. So stuck it out for a few years and then I said I'll take a break, went to Australia for a 6-month holiday.
Oh,
and that
dear.
was back in 2011.
You're still here.
I'm still here. So that's pretty much how I ended up here. And I've my entire career since I left school basically has been in construction. I got into building and pest inspections through a colleague of mine, and then BuyWise actually was one of the first building and pest inspection companies in Melbourne. It's been established in 2004, and I got introduced to Peter, who was the original owner, and we got to know each other pretty well, and we got on quite good. And he was looking to sell the business, so myself and my wife Celine, we purchased the business off Peter. He still works in the business, but that's how we came about to own BuyWise.
Fantastic.
Why do, I guess, building and pest inspections matter so much, and like why would you recommend them to all, I guess, prospective buyers? Yeah.
I think there's just so many unknowns in regards to buying a property. Like a really good comparison is someone will spend 10 grand on a car. They get RACV out to inspect the car. It's $10,000, and they'll happily spend $500 getting that inspected. You're spending $1 million on a house. There's so many things that can cost you an absolute fortune, that can be just hidden. But basically, it's just prudent. You guys would know from what we come across all the time, all the hidden things that we find, that you just can't see. You know, you're going looking through a property for 15 minutes as a buyer. You don't really get to see anything in 15 minutes. You definitely don't get to go, inside the roof or in the subfloor or any of those places where we find a lot of issues.
What about with new builds? Because I think a lot of people assume it's a newly built house or apartment, townhouse. I don't need a building and pest inspection. Yeah. Do you still do a lot of that work, and why is that important?
That's very important. So we do an awful lot of that. We did one of those this morning. And the defects on the new builds are quite significant at the minute. Ever since COVID, there was a lack of skilled trades. A lot of trades left the industry. And the quality of workmanship in the new builds is quite poor. We're finding defects in new builds that are, in some instances, they should never have been built. Like they're just significant, like extremely significant defects, things that are going to cost potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars to repair. So the new builds, you have to be very, very careful with the new builds.
Yeah, we don't do a lot for our investor clients. We obviously don't buy any new builds, but we do have some owner-occupier clients in that space. And it is interesting to see what you do pick up in those because, like I know for us, it's the usual stuff. Like when the older established houses, it's more around kind of water leaks, stuff in the subfloor, that type of stuff. Obviously, any pest if they have picked up as well. But when you're talking kind of key structural issues on newer builds, it's can be pretty scary stuff.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And I think you explained it to me once that you can sort of go through and see if everything's built to code, but you can also look at the workmanship, and they can be two totally different things.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I mean, just because something's been built to code doesn't mean they've actually done a good job. So it's like anything really,
And so I guess that's a bit of a good segue onto choosing the right building inspector. So what sort of qualifications, and I guess this is probably looking more across Australia. If people are looking to buy in Melbourne, obviously they should come to you at BuyWise. But across Australia, what sort of qualifications does a building and pest inspector need? What should we be looking for?
In Victoria, this might come as a surprise, but no qualifications whatsoever. So you don't need anything.
Definitely a surprise.
No license, no experience, technically no insurance. But that's in Victoria. In other states, mainly Queensland, you do need to be a licensed builder. Where it's important, apart from the fact that you want to have someone who has experience and knows what they're looking for, is if you sign a contract subject to a building and pest inspection, and the person inspecting the property finds a major defect, and you try to pull out of the contract, you will not be able to get out of that contract if the person who's done the report is not a registered building practitioner, because that's what's in the contract. So that's a standard REVI contract to sale. Similar with the pest, if they find termite damage or activity, they need to actually have a license. So there's a lot of people who will have the certificate for timber pest, but not actually have a license for that as well. So they're the two main ones. And then the third one is insurance. That's massive, because if you purchase a house and the inspector has no insurance, and 5 years' time or 2 years' time, or whatever the case may be, there's a major issue that's been uncovered, you need to have some recourse. If the inspector is negligent, you need to be able to take that up to the insurance. So they're the three things really: the registered building practitioner, timber pest license, and insurance. And then obviously experience on top of that is quite important.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like I feel like, you've been through 1,000 houses, you're going to know more someone that's maybe had their license for a few weeks and they're kind of getting out for the first few times.
Yeah.
It is scary, like, to hear that how easy it is to get into the industry. And like we have obviously through the podcast, but even just through our website, we have a lot of people who I don't know, but I'm assuming are quite new, reach out and say, hey, we see that you're buying lots of properties in the area. Yeah, we'd be keen to go out and do an inspection for you. But from us, it's more word of mouth. I think a lot of our referrals, whether that's yourself, but also property managers and others, it's very much word of mouth because you kind of know that what's happened. Whereas it's kind of scary to hear that you could just have someone that's done a course for a week or so and then they're out in the industry doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah. The timber pest course, for example, which is termites, it's a 1 week course and 10 mandatory inspections, and that's it.
Yeah.
Now, I've been finding termites for years. I still learn new ways that they will gain entry to a house and structural things. But that would be very scary if you paid someone money and they'd only done 10 inspections.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I don't think I'd sleep.
I mean, I can think of one particular example that we've worked on together. Phil, you've done a building and pest inspection on behalf of one of our clients, and we found major defects in the property, and so we pulled out of the deal based on that. Subsequently, someone else has gotten a building and pest inspection. I think it was actually commissioned by the vendor themselves, but the results were completely the opposite, which is scary. So it really goes to show you need someone that has the right qualifications, experience, and is trusted in the industry.
One of my pet hates, some of the big real estate franchises, they have if you're looking at the listing, say online, you can click the button and say buy the report.
Yes.
And it gets cheaper the amount of people that buy it, that type of thing. We've seen your reports; they're obviously quite lengthy, and these ones we've bought one before, and I reckon it was like 4 pages or 5 pages long. It's just there's nothing in it.
Nothing in it. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know much more about how that process works? Is that kind of at the back end? Someone's just put their name up there and they can...
Yeah, look, I know the website you're talking about. So anyway, again, we could sign up to that if we wanted to. We chose not to.
Yep.
And if you check out that website, the only qualification you need to be on the shortlist is to have insurance. Yeah, so there's nothing about license or anything like that. It's just insurance. That's it. So
they can sue someone if they have to.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, it's going to be very hard because another thing about building and pest inspections is if the report is not in your name as the buyer, you will have no legal recourse. Yeah. So when you buy a copy of the report, if it's not in your name, it's really not worth the paper it's written on. So the insurance won't cover you as the buyer.
Yep.
So yeah, that's buying copies of the reports. Again, it's also being commissioned by the vendor. So look, most vendors are honest and genuine, but you're still competing against them. They are the opposite team. So you really should be doing your own sort of due diligence. Yeah.
I want to chat a little bit about hidden issues. So like what sort of things can a building and pest inspection cover that we couldn't see with our visible eye, even if you were sort of in the construction industry? What sort of things does that uncover when you go through and do your inspections?
I think the two main ones would be termite damage and leaks. Yeah. So, I mean, getting at if the house is if it's suspended, so if we can get into the subfloor, I mean, you're never going to get in there during your normal 15-minute inspection or whatever the case is.
I have seen it once, and it was a building and pest inspector looking to buy a house for himself.
Okay.
And he was up in the roof, he was in the subfloor, and I was like, oh, he's really going above and beyond for this inspection. And then I spoke to him afterwards. He said, oh, I'm actually a building and pest inspector myself.
Yeah, well, that's where you're going to find a lot. So, shower leaks, a lot of termite damage, same inside the roof. So hidden defects as well in terms of termite damage is a really good one because it's very hard to see visible termite damage. They don't want to be found, and they're very good at not being found. So we will, for example, when we're doing a termite inspection, we'll use lots of different devices, but the main one is a tapper. So it's basically a stick with a ball on the end, and we tap every piece of timber, listening for a different sound. And then once we come across that, we'll investigate further. We have different devices that can basically detect live termites within the timber. So that's key. You're never going to see a lot of that stuff, but we'll pick it up just from the sound. And then obviously moisture meters for wet areas and stuff like that. So again, you're not going to see moisture behind walls and things like that, which the moisture meters will pick up.
So many properties now we're seeing it's just moisture readings. And I don't know if it's some of the age of the properties, but also we've seen it in fully renovated properties recently where there's still moisture leaks, whether it's waterproofing or just kind of poor workmanship. And again, like it's not something that you necessarily pull out of the deal and walk away from straight away. But it is a cost that you're going to have. Again, not in the immediate term, but over time, there's just going to be issues that come from that. So it's good to know what they are up front because we can obviously work with that, whether it's on price or if we need to actually pull out of the deal. But yeah, it can be I guess a financial lifesaver. I think at the end of the day.
What are some of the sort of more common defects you see across Melbourne homes? Like, are there particular housing types that are known to have certain issues or locations? Like I know the Mornington Peninsula whole area is, high risk for termites, for example. What sort of things do you come across most commonly?
Yeah, definitely location. So there's lots of different soil conditions in Victoria. So if you're sort of out west, you've got a clay type soil, which is very reactive to moisture. So you get an awful lot of movement out there. So if it's on a slab, you'll see a lot of cracking, brickwork. If it's suspended timber type construction, you'll see lots of undulation in the stumps. Yeah, like you said, Mornington Peninsula, well, basically anywhere from Port Phillip all the way to Porty is high risk for termites. We're actually at the minute trying to create a map of everywhere we've actually found termites in Melbourne, and we're going to have it on the website, so you can click on the street. We won't have the house number, but we'll have the street, and you'll be able to say, yes, they have found termites there. It is high risk, even though some councils will still say that their council areas are not termite prone. So that's another one. Well, that's a topic for another day. But I suppose, again, the most common defects is leaks, moisture and termites. And they are probably the most expensive ones as well, usually.
Good you're finding them, I guess. I guess like one in there, how many properties would you see termites in? Like I'd say, is it 1 out of 10, 1 out of 100? Like how often are you seeing that in the kind of greater Melbourne area, like active termites?
I could probably go through it. Yeah, probably several times a week we will find them. And I think that's a good question to ask because we've been interviewing people for a position as a Building and Pest Inspector. And that's what I've asked a couple of people. When was the last time you found termites? And they haven't found, they're doing inspections. They haven't found them in 6 months. We're finding them sometimes every day. Depends where you are. If you're on the peninsula and you don't find termites, it's very hard to sleep that night, right? Yeah, exactly. So,
would you say they're termites in the houses or in things surrounding the house, like old stumps or timber laying around, fences and things like that?
In the house, probably I'd say a third of the ones that have it would have it in the house. And I mean, it can be anywhere, So we would find them probably last week. I'm just going off the top of my head. I think 4 out of 5 days we found termites last week.
Wow.
So, and it is coming to spring as well, so they become more active as it gets into summer.
Okay. Good to know. Good time to buy when you can track them.
Yeah, that's it.
They're nice and busy. I love that spring weather as well. Let's say if there's termites, either being historical or active, or just you're buying in that Mornington Peninsula region. What do you consider the best treatment? Like, are you termite barrier straight away? Like, if you were to go out and buy a house tomorrow, are you getting annual checks? Like, what do you think the best kind of play is there for, I guess, to be safe? To be safe,
definitely. You have to get a barrier. So some sort of treatment. It's the only way you can actually protect the house, regardless of the construction type. If there is no termite barrier installed, you have to get it done. And then on top of that, anyone who installs the barrier, they will warranty it, but to maintain the warranty, they'll want to do an annual inspection for the lifetime of the barrier. It's, again, not common knowledge, but I'm pretty sure there's not an insurer in Australia that insures your house for termite damage. So if you do have an infestation and it costs you $100,000 to get it repaired, your insurance won't cover it. So you kind of have to look at a termite barrier as a form of insurance.
I know, we get asked that question quite a lot. And personally, we've bought a house that had previous termite damage. We don't have a termite barrier. we do the regular checks. And
that's good.
It's basically calculated, maybe not so well calculated, assessment of do you do the full termite barrier, which obviously we're talking thousands of dollars, or we're talking annual pest inspections, or even 6 monthly in our case. So it's an interesting way to play it because I know we termites here, I don't kind of shiver and freak out, but I know a lot of clients, particularly first-time buyers, and we say it's a high-risk area. It's almost sometimes enough to even put them off buying there, but it is, I guess, how you treat it and how you deal with it as well.
And that's it. It can all be addressed. That's the thing. So we would never say, just because there's been a termite issue, it's not necessarily a deal breaker. It's just something you need to factor in.
Exactly. Yeah.
Speaking of deal breakers, what sort of things do you see that, in your opinion, are things you would walk away from? So, like, obviously the reports can be quite lengthy. You can have a lot of defects or issues identified, but some are more concerning than others. Which ones are you like, this is probably one that's best to walk away from?
I can't think of the last time I sort of said walk away. I don't think I actually ever have said that. It really, what it really comes down to is like, we'll work out, how much these defects are going to cost to rectify. And is there any room for negotiation, which is obviously where you guys come in.
Yeah.
If the vendor is just not playing ball, they don't want to do it, and when we know that this work has to be done, well, then it might not make sense to buy it. But it's not for me to tell somebody to walk away. I just give you the facts.
Yeah.
And you have to make your own decision there.
Yeah. And I've heard the line before, it just comes down to price. Like, it's just,
that's it.
It's like,
I'm pretty much just there giving you a list of what it's going to cost to get it to where it needs to be.
Yeah.
That's it.
And it's an interesting point to make as well, because we have a lot of clients that have bought property in, say, Queensland before, and it's probably worth flagging as well that Victoria is not Queensland, and the contracts are different. And so, generally speaking, most of the time, the vendor doesn't have to kind of give way. Like, if there's something major structural, and then the contract it says you've got a major structural, I guess get out clause, that's fine. You can walk away. But again, the vendor doesn't have to say, I want $20,000 off. Well, the vendor doesn't have to agree to that. So it's two parts. One is negotiation, but the second is know what your walk away price is, because that's what we've done before. Basically said, if we've had significant price discounts and then we've had exactly the same issue, but the vendor didn't want to budge. And so that's when we walk away, because it doesn't make financial sense for us to do so. So it's very much case by case in that sense. Yeah.
When it comes to construction, everything can be fixed.
Yep.
It just comes at a cost.
Exactly.
That's it.
Yeah.
Going back to the contract, obviously not all contracts are the same. Some will say for your building and pest clause, it has to be a major defect or a structural defect. Does that change how you approach an inspection and, what sort of things you're looking for, or how you're able to phrase it?
It does. That makes it very difficult. So the standard RIVI contract says for the major, what an agent generally will say, a major structural defect. But that's not the wording. The wording is a major building defect in a structure, which basically means all it needs to be is a major building defect. There is another contract out there, though, where it actually says major structural defect. That is a very difficult contract to get out of if we found a lot of major defects, but they're not structural. So, for example, if you had a leak in wet area, that's a major building defect. It's not a major structural defect. It might still cost you 20 or 30 grand to get it rectified. But if you've signed the contract major structural defect, you actually can't activate the clause to exit the contract. So we get people all the time who've signed contracts not really knowing what they've signed, and they're sort of bound by that, and it makes it really difficult. They can't negotiate because they've signed that contract. So you should definitely seek advice from your conveyancer about that. But even some conveyancers will actually call us to clarify, because that wording is so key. Major building defect in a structure as opposed to major structural defect. They're two completely different things.
And I think often with the pest clauses as well, it's often that has to be a major infestation in the building.
Yes.
So if it's, in the fence or the tree or anything, it doesn't count. And it has to be, so I guess an infestation would have to be live termites. Is that correct?
Well, I mean, that's what they...
Up to interpretation.
It's up to interpretation. That one definitely is. But they would be pushing that very hard, I think, if we found old termite damage. The only way you could kind of maybe get around that is if the termite damage was structural, it caused a major structural defect, potentially. But I think just people need to pay a lot more attention to the contracts, because that major structural defect and, like you said, the major infestation, the likelihood of finding those is quite low. Well, like I said, we'll find major defects every day, termite damage every day, active termites, but major structural defects and major infestations, not so much.
Yeah. Are you able to give some examples of what a major structural defect actually is? Like, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, major structural defect is basically a structural element to the building, which, the foundations, for example, there's an issue with those. The slab, for example, slab heave is a pretty good one. If the slab is basically cracked in half, they're sort of major structural defects.
Yep.
But like a major building defect can be anything from, as I said, I've said this a lot of times now, a leak in shower, or, the roof needs some work. It's just major.
Yeah. Well, I mean, these days you're lucky to get a full bathroom renovation for sort of 25,000.
Oh, yeah.
So that is pretty major when you're looking at the cost of purchasing a property.
Yeah. The Building and Pest Inspection is done to an Australian standard.
Yeah.
So the definition of it actually does not take into account the cost.
Okay.
The definition of what's a major defect basically says, can the area still be used or is it not usable? So that's pretty much defines it.
Yep.
Which doesn't line up with the contract of sale.
Helpful.
Yeah, isn't it?
And then you also have safety defects. What sort of things does that encompass?
Yeah, so safety hazards, again, they are considered major defects. So asbestos is one. So we'll do a visual inspection for asbestos. Simple things like handrails on stairs, fire hazards. So inside the roof is a lot of old sort of halogen lights and stuff with insulation on them. Safety hazards are, they can be anything as well. Decay in a veranda, in a deck where it's significant, stuff like that.
Yeah, I think we've actually got an offering on a property now that you'll have a field day with. It's one we know we're buying it in that current condition. It's for a client. Obviously, we've got two at the moment, renovator clients, and they're both going to be. Actually, no, one you've already done. Actually, the bathroom that was completely shot, which we knew about. But that was why we were buying it.
It's for a flipper client.
Yeah.
That's
But we've got another one as well coming up where I think there's going to be a few things. So we'll wait. No, assuming the offer gets accepted, fingers crossed. But there'll be another one that'll be an extensive report. We'll work through it when we go through it.
Sounds good.
My favourite question I wanted to ask is some horror stories. Like, what are some of the scariest things you've seen from a purchaser's point of view going through one of the inspections?
Oh, where do I start?
Yeah.
That is.
You would have seen some things in your time. I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely. So it's one that sort of gets me is sort of concealed defects where the vendors have purposely gone and tried to hide things. Yeah. So termite damage is a good one where they know they've had an infestation. It has done major sort of damage. But probably the last one that we did that comes to mind wasn't too long ago. Sort of 1980s house. It was a very large house up in the hills. Going through doing our inspection and all new skirting boards. So we're like, okay, straight away you're like, oh, new skirting boards. Had been painted and new carpets, but as soon as we got on the subfloor, there was a major termite infestation. So, pretty much all throughout the subfloor. All the vendor had done was change skirting boards because the termites had attacked those to conceal the damage.
Yeah.
But what you couldn't see is they'd actually gone inside the frame and done structural damage to the frame. So when we got inside the roof, you could see the top plates of all the framing had been attacked by termites. So if they're up in the roof, they've been there for quite some time. So when we brought this to the attention when our client brought it to the attention of the vendor, they said that that's the way they bought the house, which was very strange because we found we found some offcuts of the new skirting outside, which had just been done. So it can be scary. Again, if I'm not sort of blowing my own trumpet, but if you're not paying attention to simple stuff like that, everything has to be you just have to be very suspect. So why have they put new skirting in just before they're selling the house? So
I remember going to an auction. I was in Frankston North actually. We weren't bidding for a client, but we went there. Speaking to the agent afterwards, the person that bought it sight unseen. They'd never spoken to the agent. They'd walked in. They live locally. They'd wandered in and they only asked the agent, has a building and pest inspection been done? Yeah. And the agent said yes. And he's like, okay, good. Because his view, this is the buyer's view, was that if someone's had a building and pest inspection done and they're here and people are still bidding at the auction, that it must be okay. That was the kind of rationale.
How does that logic work?
Yeah,
I've heard that a few times.
Yeah. Really.
They're that is the thing. People will say, oh, they got a building and pest inspection done. they've still showed up.
Yeah.
But they might be 400 grand less than what you're going to offer because they know there's work to be done.
But it's for those out there that don't want to spend the $300. You can do it that way. If people turn up at auction and bid, then everything must be okay.
That's one way to do it.
I wanted to know if you, like, less so on the horror story side of things, but have you ever run into any major surprises, like found a suitcase of cash or, a dead animal in a roof or something?
Cash, I wouldn't be sitting here, no offense. We do come across dead animals and stuff a bit. It's not the nicest part of the job, inside the roof and the subfloor as well. We haven't found any gold, no jewellery, no cash.
It was in Melbourne, I think it was up north recently that underneath the house, they bought the house and like months later they went under there and there's a full what's it called, like a train, like a toy train set.
Oh, really?
Yeah, someone had
I love that.
I did see that.
It was like, I don't know how much it was worth, but I think it was more the shock of finding that, like a functioning underground.
Like, it was functioning under.
Yeah, like a toy rail. Someone spent years kind of building. It was just tucked away under the house. Yeah.
There you go. I just wanted to ask a little bit more about, I guess, your business. So what sort of areas are you servicing? Are you doing all across Melbourne? Are you focused on certain areas?
Yeah, we pretty much Metro Melbourne. We go everywhere. So, from all the western suburbs. We're based over here near you guys, Bayside, but all the western suburbs up through the city, all the way down the peninsula.
And freestanding houses, apartments, you do it all?
We do everything. Yes.
Very good. How can people sort of get in touch with you if they're interested in getting a building and pest inspection done?
I think just check us out on Google, BuyWise Inspections.
Very good. And we'll link it in the show notes. We'll put your website and email and phone number.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, thanks again for coming in today, Phil. Hopefully, the listeners will take away a few things, but I mean, if nothing else, just make sure you get one done, building and pest inspection done before you do purchase a property. So thanks for popping in and look forward to chatting again soon.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Melbourne Property Podcast. Just a reminder that this information is general in nature and should not be considered financial advice. If you'd like to discuss your personal situation, book a discovery call with the team at Convergence Buyers Agents. Our link is in the show notes.
If you learned something from this podcast, hit subscribe and never miss your fortnightly dose of Melbourne property insights. Catch you next time and happy house hunting.